stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're close here. Don't get no funny ideas.
Okay. And we will move to the roll call, please.
Mr. Earl?
I'm here.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Here.
Dr. Fike?
Here.
Mrs. Kaufman? Here. Mrs. Love? Here. Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes? Mr. Miller?
Here, yes.
Katie Pickles? Here. Joshua D. Here.
So we have 8 board members present, 2 student representatives, and Ms. Rhodes mentioned that for medical reasons she will be absent tonight. Introductions. Citizen comments?
There are no citizen comments. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce Mr. Sheldon Burke. I think most of the board has met him. Sheldon is our interim business manager and has been working diligently with us for about the last week. So Sheldon, welcome to Southmoreland.
Thank you. Nice to be on board.
And we will move to the minutes.
It is recommended that the board approve the minutes of the March 7th, 14th, and 21st, 2013 meetings.
Do I hear a motion? Ms. Kaufman?
Second.
Mr. Polakowski. Comment or question? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that carries, the ayes have it. And business and finance fund accounts.
It is recommended that the board approve the March 2013 revenue report, expenditure report, bills payable, and accounts payable, and March 2013 treasurer's reports.
So be it.
Mr. Beistel? What's the motion? Second, Ms. Love? Comment? Roll call?
Mr. Earl?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman? Yes. Mrs. Love? Yes. Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that carries 9, oh, I'm sorry, 8-0. 1 absent. Good. Old business?
Levi, I have an item under finance that has to do with the budget.
Okay.
Do I address that now or at some other time?
Go ahead, Ms. Pike. Okay.
Levi, I continue to get phone calls about whether or not there's going to be a budget increase or a tax increase to for the 13-14 budget, and people are very concerned. They want to know what our plans are. They want to know what they need to do, and so far the information says there will be no tax increase. Is that correct?
As I shared with you last week, Dr. Fike, the current iteration of the budget does not reflect a tax increase. We do have a budget discussion meeting on the 30th of April. At that point in time, there will be a number of options that administration will have prepared for you by then, and it will be up to this board to decide whether or not they are planning to recommend tax increases.
Is that a voting meeting? Is that a voting meeting? It is not a voting meeting.
Well, I have a question. You done?
No, I'm not done. Go ahead. Greg.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
On the 30th, one of those options will be to have a tax raise, I assume?
That would be an option that you would have available to you, yes, Mr. Owens would.
I'm just curious. I mean, I know I'm part of this whole thing, but what is, as the administration, what is taking the process longer? What are we looking at? What are we scrutinizing that it continues to go on and on and on?
Well, one of the things we're scrutinizing is revenues. We're waiting for final figures to come in from the state.
Oh, yes,
we're scrutinizing expenditures line item by line item, and there are a lot of them.
And where are we in that process? I mean, just starting it, halfway through it?
Well, as you know, we started out with about a $1.6 million deficit. The last iteration of the budget, we were looking at about $588,000 in deficit. So we brought that down by about $1 million already. And we intend to continue to find ways to try to reduce that deficit. We're looking at a number of options in terms of how we might do that. We have some unanswered questions that we still need to answer by doing further research.
And
But again, Ken, as I've told you, every time this question has been posed to me, administration's attempt and intent is to bring this budget in as close to a balanced budget as possible. If there is a deficit, then it will be up to this board to address how that deficit may be covered, be that through further cuts, be it through using money from the fund balance or through a tax increase. And again, that's your decision, not mine, but we will be able to provide you with options that you may deliberate upon at the April 30th meeting.
Well, based on the calls that I'm getting, and I've been asked to do this, I'm going to make a motion that the 2013-14 budget contain no tax increase for the school district.
I'll second that.
Okay, and I'm going to take that as a statement that you wish to make.
I make the motion. I make the motion.
But I'm not taking it as a motion. I'm taking it as a statement which you wish to make to your constituents, and that's fine for you to make that.
I make a motion that this board vote that there will be no tax increase for the 2013-14 Southmoreland School District budget.
But I'm going to refer to the parliamentary in regards to whether this needs to be done with this motion.
I can ask a question while you're thinking.
I think it's a very difficult thing to deal with because we haven't completed the budget process, and to make a motion to short circuit that whole process seems premature.
But by the same token, Dave, doesn't that kind
The
of...
budget is not on.
Does the chair have the right not to
The budget
propose
is
the motion?
the budget is not on the agenda tonight.
Most motions aren't.
It's on the old business,
April 30th meeting.
which is not a
It's not a voting
not a
meeting.
voting meeting. Not a voting meeting.
Dave,
You could advertise the 30th as a voting meeting.
let me just ask you this. You say it's premature, but is it premature to force this board to take the hard path, as far as I'm concerned, to make the cuts or adjustments that are needed to do this budget without a tax increase? It's easy to fall back on that tax increase, but what I'd like to see is us say, no, we're not going to raise taxes. We're going to find a way to do this like other communities have.
There was a discussion and a vote previous in the earlier part of the year in which, the vote was to be permitted to have that you left the door open to have an increase within the index.
Of course.
But not to exceed the index.
That's fine. That's still a tax increase.
You closed the door to not exceeding it because of the way
Yeah, well,
the
that has nothing
state
to do
law
with
is
this.
written. But, the chair has made a ruling that it's not, before the body at this point. And I think that since we're nowhere near the deadlines and haven't gone through the process, that the chair has a rational basis to make that ruling.
Mr. Botonic,
So
the
it's-
pace at which our administration does their job is not more important than the thousands of taxpayers out there. Pick up any newspaper and you will see that many school districts have finalized their budgets. Tell me what they're going to know 10 days from now or 20 days from now that they don't already know. And as far as those figures from the government, they're as close as you're going to get, okay? They don't get any different. They already know everything.
Generally do get different.
Not significantly, okay? But, just because they want their good old time to do it does not mean these people have to wait for an answer.
So you're suggesting that we do it as quickly as possible and not be accurate? Is that my...
No, I suggest you do as quickly as possible and be accurate.
Okay.
And be accurate.
We've heard your statement. Ms. Fox?
No, this is a motion, and it's been
Thank you very
seconded.
much. We're going to be moving on to...
It's been seconded, Ken.
And I did not recognize it. You made a campaign statement, and
Why
you're
do you
welcome...
keep harping on campaign statements?
You're welcome to make campaign statements here.
What
Use this
campaign
board meeting for
statement?
that.
What are you talking
What are you
about,
talking
Lee?
about?
That's what I consider you to have made.
We're
Well,
talking
that's too
about
bad,
budget.
what you consider.
And you're talking about campaigning.
And I'm talking then, if we're talking budget, we're talking procedures.
Yeah,
We're talking
how about we have
orderly ways of addressing
Procedures
that
is,
as
you had a
board.
motion and it was seconded. If you don't like the motion, then vote against it.
And we've had a ruling here.
I didn't hear him say
There's no
definitively
ruling.
that you have the right to overrule a motion.
He had the right to not recognize it.
Okay. Then I'm going to go on to new business.
Okay, I'd like to make a second motion then.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that no tax increase be placed in this budget after May 21st that is not in the budget before May 21st.
It's the same kind of problem.
Second that one.
I will second that one.
The president too.
If the administration is recommending a no tax increase,
They're not recommending a no tax increase.
no, no.
Oh, no, it's up to the
confused
board.
Joe.
Oh, no.
He said as of now, there is no tax increase. Not recommended.
Well, what I said was, what I said was the current iteration of the budget, which does contain a $588,000 deficit,
Right.
does not include a tax
Okay.
increase.
So-
Now, having said that, let me finish, please.
I
So
understand.
having said that, if this
We have to
board,
decide where that money's gonna come
decides that they want to increase taxes to help offset that deficit, that's within the purview of the board.
okay, so say we say, okay, we're not going to, we vote no tax increase.
Right.
Then how are we going to, where's that 588,000?
It's up to them. It's
We
up to
will
them.
figure it
We'll
out.
figure it out.
We will figure
It's
it
up
out.
to the board. It's up to the
That's
board.
our job and their job,
Get
Josie.
in on
Falling back on tax increases is crap.
Well, due to the fact that it's premature, I think we should make a motion to table Catherine's motion until we're further along in the budget process. I think we're cutting off our nose to spite our face if we make a motion that we can't. I mean, I don't want a tax increase any more than anybody else in this district because I
But
pay
you'll vote
taxes
for
here
one.
too.
But you'll vote for one.
But
There's the difference.
I make a motion that we table.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
To table it, second by Ms. Kaufman. So we vote on tabling it. Are there any comments on that? Do you understand what the motion is in the second? To table the motion that has been made, and you're saying until
Until we're further along, until we know.
How far along, Amy? How far along?
Until we have more information.
What
How
information?
much more information do
You
we
got
need
it
to
all.
know?
You have it all.
They've
You have it
got
all.
everything that they're going to get, Amy. What more
They
do
have
they- how
nothing
do you
more to
know
give.
this?
Oh, Butch,
come on,
they
Butch.
do.
I don't
Butch.
understand
What
how
are they
you got
waiting
the
for?
magic
Ask
ball.
him what specifically
I don't know where
he's
you
waiting
got the
for.
magic ball where you're coming up with all this stuff.
Which,
You give them time.
How much
They've
time?
had a
We have
year
till
to...
June to put the thing together.
Absolutely.
You got the magic ball, why
What
don't you
about
put it
the
out?
taxpayers, Butch? They don't have forever.
Let's individually speak. Does anybody else want to speak to the tabling the motion?
Yes, you're saying that you ignored my first one and you're tabling my second one, right? For the record.
We're tabling, making a decision.
The first one, you refuse to recognize, the second one you're tabling, right?
Right. I'm gonna, any other comments?
Do we want to make the April 30th meeting a voting meeting? So that
Well, we
that
got
time
something on the
do
floor.
you think from your past experience that we'll have more information from the state by April the 30th?
We'll have it all done by April 30th for you. We'll have a package, but I can't speak to it tonight. I haven't had enough time,
But
but
do you think we'll get more
Don't put the
information from the
gentleman on the
government,
spot.
more current numbers by then?
yes.
Then let's do that. If it's not, if it has nothing to do with the election, then let's do that, and it should be a...
That's fine by me, Josie.
That's good.
It's
So
fine
we
by
will
me.
change the
Well, we
budget
know-
meeting to a voting
I think we have a
meeting.
motion first, and then we can go back and do that.
We have a motion to table, so let's take a roll call on the motion to table.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Pike?
No.
Mrs. Kaufman? Yes. Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
No.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that carries then 6-2.
Hey, Josie, you going to make that motion?
Josie, make the motion. She's ignoring
Is this
us.
the correct time to make that?
Absolutely,
Under finances?
absolutely, it's under finance.
So,
You know, we have an agenda item to schedule that meeting. Why don't we just amend that motion to make it a voting meeting?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
And just, to clarify what Mr. Burke said, we will have a package for you on April the 30th. We will not know what the state is doing until the state finalizes the budget. Would that be correct, Mr. Burke? So those numbers can change after April 30th.
Yeah, for those who are familiar with it, you can read it in the paper and the Post-Gazette, but they always wait till like June 30th to finalize their figures, as you go through the state with the back and forth. So you're not going to get a final number from them till June 30th when they get ready to leave for their long Labor Day weekend, or July 4th weekend that they're going to. And then the second point that I would bring up is, Dr. Scott is getting the final federal figures that we're looking for the budget, and we're looking at getting those, I think, on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. So we should have some firm figures for you. Dr. Scott will bring them back, and we'll put the package together for you. And April 30th is the date.
And again, that's if PDE has the allocations at the federal programs meeting, which sometimes they do,
Yes,
sometimes they don't.
Pressure's on, Dr. Scott. Pressure's on.
So sometimes we get this, sometimes we don't at that meeting.
very good. Corrective action plan.
It is recommended that the board approve a corrective action plan for observations noted in the January 2011 school performance audit report.
Motion.
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Kaufman.
Observations noted in June.
Here in a second.
We already passed that.
Be quiet now.
Second.
Second, Mr. Weissman.
We passed that.
And roll call.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Mr.
sure, Miss.
We've never passed this before, Jim?
No. We were unaware, I was unaware, that there needed to be a formal board-approved corrective action plan. So, because it was just two observations, they weren't even citations, if you recall 2 years ago.
You're
So-
talking about the corrective action plan for the audit, not the high school.
Right, yeah.
Oh, this is the
Performance
audit. This
Yes.
is the audit corrective
Yeah,
action
remember we
plan.
talked about it last week?
I thought you were
It's a
talking about the
memorandum
high
of
school.
understanding
Oh, I got
and
it.
the security.
The audit, yeah, okay. Well, I didn't at the high school.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Benz.
Yes.
Dr. Fike.
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mrs. Love.
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski.
Yes.
Mr. Alt.
Yes.
Mr. Beistel.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, and that passes 8-0 and 1. Just one of the things, one of the elements there is to work with the town police and on safety issues. I asked if there are any volunteers going to draft with Mr. Polakowski and to meet with them.
Yes.
If anybody else is interested or open, just say the word. But I think we can handle it very well, meeting with the administration.
And this is with the, not the entire council, but the council's protection committee, which I think is three members, if I'm not mistaken. So Mr. Polakowski, you and I will sit down with them and see how we can work together.
Okay. Sounds good.
Budget discussion meeting comes here on the agenda.
It is recommended that the board authorize the secretary to post and advertise a budget discussion meeting, which will also be a voting meeting, for Tuesday, April 30th, 2013, middle school cafeteria, 7 p.m.
Okay, as it's read, do I hear a motion?
We're voting on preliminary budget, we're voting
On whatever motion is made that evening with respect to the budget. That's, I don't know.
'Cause I've been around 9 years, and I know if you can pare down the budget a lot more between then and the end of May, which is when the preliminary budget is voted on the end of May, and then the end of June, you vote on the final budget. We've cut it down a lot in that last month. That's why I was wondering if it's preliminary budget or if it's...
Yeah, I don't know what
Wouldn't it be in
the voting plans are for
sense
that
that
night.
you previously defined preliminary budget? I think what Dr. Mulnar has told the board is that he's going to present different options, so you have the potential for beginning a process of making some choices, but not the absolute final choices. Because you still wouldn't have all the numbers necessarily from the government or even from the state.
Right, so that the board may vote on an option that we present, and then we would take that decision back and plug the numbers in.
So we're going to vote again later in the month, or are we gonna...
I would not recommend that we vote on a preliminary budget in April. I would like to do that in May. As a matter of fact, during my superintendent's report, will propose a meeting at which we can do that.
That's more comfortable than wouldn't. Thank you.
What just happened here?
Mr. Bentz asked a question and I answered it.
No, I mean, is he saying we're not going to have a voting meeting on the 30th?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, I didn't quite understand what he was saying.
What his question was will we vote to post a tentative budget on that day? And I said I would rather not do that because I'm going to present the board with options. And depending on what those options are, we need to go back and plug in numbers so that we can come back with a bottom line.
That's correct.
Because we can't vote on a budget that doesn't have a bottom line.
So we'll leave the motion as it is and not make an amendment to make it a voting meeting?
No, we are making a voting
We read the motion as a voting meeting.
It doesn't say voting meeting.
But when I read it, I inserted that word.
it.
So here's what you're going to vote on, gang. It is recommended that the board authorize the secretary to post and advertise a budget discussion meeting, which will also be a voting meeting for Tuesday, April 30, 2013, middle school cafeteria, 7 p.m. Okay?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
The second is by Mr. Alt. Any further discussion? Then roll call.
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Vance?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8-0 and 1. List of potential graduates.
It is recommended that the board approve, pending the completion of required credits, the list of potential 2013 graduates, which was presented at the April 4th, 2013 discussion meeting. And just double check and make sure these guys' names aren't on there, because we kind of like having them around.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Mr. Alt.
Second.
Second. Makes the motion, second by Ms. Fike. And roll call.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8-0 and 1. The policy 828, fraud policy.
It is recommended that the board authorize administration to post policy 828, fraud, for 30 days. And bearing in mind that when a policy is posted, it is subject to revision, and I understand that Mr. Patonic will have a few items that he would like to address before we pass that as a final budget or a final action. So you're only posting it, you're not adopting it tonight.
Polakowski makes the motion.
Second.
Second, Mr. Beistel. Hearing no comments, roll call.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. O?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8-0 and 1. Policy 001, names and classification.
It is recommended that the board authorize administration to post revisions to policy 001, name and classification, for 30 days.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Fike. Motion.
Just to change the address.
Oh, is that what that's
Yeah,
for?
that's what that
Oh,
is,
okay. Yeah, I'll second
Yeah, let's change
that.
it.
Change the address.
Mr.
We
O.
want him to close that door.
Duh, I'm sitting here like a
No,
dummy.
that's all right.
Questions? Roll call.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. O?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8-0-1. Sure.
I know we were trying to streamline the whole district to Southmoreland with the signs in the front of everything. I noticed that the primary center still says Alberton. Has it ever been looked at in the...
Yeah, there was temporary signage there, and it was damaged by the weather, so there was another one that has been ordered.
There was no similarities.
Yeah, there was a plastic banner that went over that, but it was damaged during the winter.
Very good. What I need to take is a great big beer and cheese.
Multi-purpose, paper bid.
It's recommended that the board award the allotted paper bid for multi-purpose paper and purchase the items per the school district's quantity request at the reference prices from Contract Paper Group, the party indicated whom the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit Joint Purchasing Consortium has recommended as the lowest responsible bidder, meeting or equaling specifications for the 2013-2014 school year.
So be it.
Mr. Beistel makes the motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Alt seconds it. And roll call.
Mr. O?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman? Yes. Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8-0-1. Electronic signatures.
It is recommended that the board authorizes Dr. John A. Molnar, superintendent, to sign any and all contracts, agreements, grants, and/or licenses hereinafter collectively referred to as contracts with the Pennsylvania Department of Education, and that the board consents to the use of electronic signatures by the above-named individual, and have no handwritten signature from the above-named individual shall be required in order for any contract with the department to be legally enforceable, and that by affixing his or her electronic signature to an electronic file of the contract via the department's e-grant system, the designated authorized individual shall have effectively executed and delivered the contract, binding the board of directors of the Southmoreland School District to comply with the terms of said contract. And be it further resolved that no writing shall be required in order to make the contract valid and legally binding, provided that the department and all other necessary Commonwealth approvers affix their signatures electronically, and an electronically printed copy of the contract is emailed or otherwise made available to the body by electronic means, and that the body will not contest the due authorization, execution, delivery, validity, or enforceability of the electronic contract under the provisions of a statute of frauds or any other applicable law. The contract, if introduced as evidence on paper in any judicial, arbitration, mediation, or administrative proceedings, will be admissible as between the parties to the same extent and under the same conditions as other business records originated and maintained in documentary form, and the admissibility thereof shall not be contested under either the business records exception to the hearsay rule or the best evidence rule, and that the body will notify the department's Bureau of Management Services promptly in the event that the above-named individual is no longer authorized to execute agreements on behalf of the body electronically, and that the department shall be entitled to rely upon the above-named officer's authority to execute agreements electronically on behalf of the body until such notice is received by the department's Office of Chief Counsel.
Could you repeat that?
Yes, it is recommended that the board author.
I'll make that.
What if you get sick?
That
Is the doctor spot allowed to?
Now, if I get sick, I will log on to eGrants from home and execute the signature.
You're the only one.
Remember, I asked you a question last time. Is he the
Annual.
only one that can do
Well,
it?
maybe twice a year.
So it's not like it's a weekly thing where you're
No. Generally, this would apply to accountability block grant, Title I, Title II, and then any revisions that are done to those contracts.
Whether we get on the motion here, and then Ms. Kaufman makes the motion. If anyone has further discussion, we'll take it.
That's what they said.
Second by Ms. Love.
Nothing in the executive session, just part of the public.
Any further comments? Roll call.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Feig?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8-0 and 1. We will entertain a motion to recess for a brief executive session here. So I would entertain a motion.
I would like to discuss another tax litigation. Probably do that for 220 Bessemer Road.
Do that at the end, Ken.
We'll add that.
Maybe it'll be short.
Polakowski, motion.
Take it all out.
Second by Mr. Weiss and Mr. Polakowski. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? And it's in favor of reconvening, and we will go to person. Oh, just an announcement here. Michael Bentz will join Mr. Polakowski with a meeting with the borough in regards to safety.
There you go.
Mr. Beistel will be joining you. Good. Okay, so that's the three committee. Good. Thank you very much. On assessment of superintendent, we'll have the superintendent read this.
It is recommended that the board affirm the fact that the superintendent's performance review has been completed.
Ms. Kaufman makes a motion.
Second.
Second by Ms. Love. Just a comment here, and if anybody else wants to comment, I want to thank the board and Dr. Molnar for the working together in going through this process of assessment. Choosing and working with the chief executive officer, the superintendent, is one of the most important things that a board does, because this is the person who carries on what we direct here during the every day of the week. And if I think, and I've mentioned this before, our district, Southmoreland, has been incredibly fortunate in having boards who made good selections and having good people to head our organization. And I think back in the 70s, G. Gordon Nevin mentioned this. He was lived out in East Huntington. He was the superintendent. We had a revolving door. Those were not good years for the principal and the teachers for a few, not for us as a board. But then Jack Kenny came along, John F. Kenny, and for about 10 years in the late 80s, the late 90s, provided good leadership for us. And then we brought in a person, John Hatfield, and John Hatfield just carried on for another 10 years there, another decade. Great leadership that we had, and now Dr. Molnar follows in that stream. And I'm just reciting the heritage that I'm really grateful to have been a part of this kind of school district.
Well, Levi, I hope you preface all that by saying that is strictly your opinion.
Okay.
This is the first time that we did a superintendent's evaluation, so
Never happened before to my knowledge.
good job. Thank you.
They destroy us.
Roll call.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Feig?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8, 0, and 1. Job description for the business manager.
It's recommended that the board approve the job description for business manager as was distributed.
I've been marking Josie out.
Ms. Love?
Instead of Gail.
Love, and the
Because he's
second
not
is
reporting to
Mr.
the
Benz.
board. I made a suggestion that he have to report to the board. And they're completely unaware.
Comments? Roll call?
Dr. Fike?
No.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mrs. Love? Yes. Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
A question? Did we make any changes that he will report to the board?
No.
No. That's my answer.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 6, 2, and 1. Next, just a note here to the board. One of the things, and you'll get a chance to speak to this, but I say this procedurally. We have probably 8 or 10 here that in all likelihood we could lump them together, bring them together and have a consensus vote on these resignations.
Oh, gee, who said that years ago, Levi? It's ridiculous. All these items should be combined.
Okay, and Ms. Fike, you've made that point, and it's a good. Our parliamentarian is looking at it and whether we need to change policy. But just to note it, we're going to walk through them tonight. But it's a good point. All right, let's move ahead on the.
And the reason we're walking through them, by the way, is these people collectively have over 100 years of service to this district, and I think each and every one of them deserves the respect of individually recognizing them and the fact that they are retiring. So first of all, middle school family and consumer science teacher Janice Bungard. It is recommended that the board accept with regrets the resignation of Janice Bungard for the purpose of retirement effective at the end of the 2012-2013 school year.
Second.
Beistel. Roll call.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8, 0, and 1. And middle school language arts teacher.
It is recommended that the board accept with regrets the resignation of Valerie Costco for the purpose of retirement effective at the end of the 2012-2013 school year.
Motion.
Benz.
So be it.
And Mr. Beistel seconds it.
Excuse me.
Roll call.
Mrs. Love? Yes. Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8, 0, and 1. And the school nurse.
It is recommended that the board accept with regrets the resignation of Wendy Huffman for the purpose of retirement at the end of the 2012-2013 school year.
So be it.
Mr. Beistel.
I'll second it.
Did I hear a second? Dr. Hall. Thank you. Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8, 0, and 1. And the elementary guidance counselor, Ms. Mates.
It is recommended that the board accept with regrets the resignation of Collins Mates for the purpose of retirement effective at the end of the 2012-2013 school year.
So be it.
Mr. Beistel makes the motion.
Second.
Mr. Alt seconds it, and roll call.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8, 0, and 1. Middle school family and consumer science teacher.
It is recommended that the board authorize the administration to post the position of middle school family and consumer science teacher.
Ms. Kaufman. And Ms. Love seconds it. Roll call.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Pike?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman? Yes. Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8-0-1. And the middle school language arts teacher.
It is recommended that the board authorize administration to post the position of middle school language arts teacher.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Alt.
Second.
Mr. Beistel makes the second.
Just to note for clarification, these are all internal postings. They're not being publicly advertised.
Roll call.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Pike?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman? Yes. Mrs. Love? Yes. Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8-0-1. And the school nurse.
It is recommended that the board authorize administration to post the position of school nurse.
Motion.
Mr. Benz? Motion. Second by Ms. Love. Roll call.
Dr. Pike?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman? Yes. Mrs. Love? Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8-0-1. Assistant marching band instructor.
You skipped the page.
Oh, sorry. All right, here we go. Go back to, good, sabbatical leave.
It is recommended that the board approve a request for sabbatical leave for the restoration of health for Tammy Wesolowski, beginning April 22nd, 2013, and lasting through the end of the 2012-2013 school year.
Ms. Love makes the motion. Second by Mr. Beistel. Roll call.
I have a question on
Oh,
it.
sorry, sure.
Okay, so this is paid at the sabbatical rate then? This is a paid leave?
She will receive half salary,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's paid. Okay.
And that's per policy and statute.
And it's only for a month? and a half?
Right, but by using this, she waives her right to use her semester-long sabbatical.
That's what I was wondering.
Yes.
Can she go back and keep taking that as sabbaticals? No.
You're entitled to, I believe it's 2 semesters every so many years.
Yeah.
So even though this is only a month, it will...
This was unusual to me, to
Yes.
see a month and a half as a
Right.
sabbatical.
Okay. Roll call.
Mrs. Kaufman? Yes. Mrs. Love? Yes. Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Pike?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8-0-1. And an FMLA leave, Jamie Gore.
It is recommended that the board approve an FMLA leave request for Jamie Gore, instrumental music instructor at the high school, from August 21st, 2013 through October 8th, 2013.
And by Ms. Kaufman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Polakowski. Roll call.
Mrs. Love? Yes. Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Pike?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman? Yes. Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8-0-1. And the marching band instructor.
It is recommended that the board accept with regrets the resignation of Jamie Gore as marching band instructor and authorize administration to post the supplemental position.
Motion.
Mr. Benz makes the motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Weissman. And roll call.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Pike?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman? Yes. Mrs. Love? Yes. Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8-0-1. Assistant marching band instructor.
It is recommended that the board accept with regrets the resignation of Jude Gore as assistant marching band instructor and authorize administration to post a supplemental position.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
And Mr. Benz makes a second. Roll call.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Pike?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8-0-1. And the assistant band equipment hauler.
It's recommended that the board accept with regrets the resignation of Kurt Ellenberger as assistant band equipment hauler and authorize administration to post the supplemental position.
Motion.
Mr. Benz.
Second.
Second by Mr. Beistel. And roll call.
Mr. Beistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mrs. Love? Yes. Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Ault?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes. Passes 8-0 and 1. You ready for board reports, student reports? Go ahead, Mr. Day and Ms. Pickles.
First, I'd like to congratulate March's Scotty Scholar, Elena Kaufman.
The junior and senior prom will be May 17th at the Willow Room, and Impressions will be providing photography in the cafeteria beforehand, and the Grand March will start at 5:45.
And class day will be held on May 24th in the high school auditorium at 7:45.
A commencement rehearsal will be held for seniors on May 28th in the high school auditorium from 8 to 10 a.m., and the commencement ceremony will be on May 31st at 7 p.m. in the auditorium.
I'd like to congratulate Katia Pickles for placing 5th overall in the CalcuSolve competition, and Southmoreland's Team A, which consisted of Katia Pickles, Taylor Sipas, Stephanie Wells, Aaron Bailey, and Davis Simon, and they placed 3rd in the team portion of the CalcuSolve. And also in YEA events, we've also been having a lot of stuff going on in April for Autism Awareness Month. And attached is the Dime Wars sheet to our report that has all of the rules and what kind of things that we're doing, raising money for autism awareness, that we participate in the Walk Now for Autism, and all the donations that we get will go towards research for families that mostly mainly affected in our area. And we're also, on April 5th was the Bunny Hop for Autism, where a couple of our students went over and helped some of the children in our special education with autism about raising awareness in the primary center.
A new program has been established called the Reading Buddies program, and for several weeks students in 9th through 12th grade have been volunteering their Friday afternoons to read to kindergarten and first graders at the primary center. Last week alone, over 50 kids signed up from the high school, resulting in some even having to have been turned away, which we think is a great program, great opportunity.
Excuse me, I had an opportunity to watch that in action, and I have to tell you that there was nothing more heartwarming than to watch a 6'5", 250-pound athlete laying on the floor listening to a little kindergarten girl read to him. And the cheerleaders and kids who were on detention, and it was just this whole mix of high school kids showing some of Southmoreland's finest, so I was really proud to see all of that. Sorry for the interruption.
That's it. And as a continuation of this program to advocate reading in the primary center, some student volunteers in the high school have gathered together and are writing a children's book that they hope to publish. They've raised over $600 through the website adoptaclassroom.com. It's led by English teacher Jenna Hickson, and this is in cooperation with the Reading Buddies program. So, really good overall.
Yeah. And we'd like to thank you for your continued support as we just wrapped up our celebration of Music in Our Schools month in March. And in honor of this month, our choir students kicked off the performance with an annual spring sing and a small ensemble concert. And the second concert was sponsored by the Triumph Music Honor Society and was the first talent show sponsored by Southmoreland in 5 years. And the top 10 acts performed and top 3 were selected. In third place was a tap group performing to an arrangement of In the Mood and was performed by Stephanie Firestone, Jamie Ellenberger, and Kelsey King. In second place was awarded to Sammy Sarver for her rendition of I Can Hear the Bells from the musical Hairspray. And the top award went to Emily Donovan for her piano/vocal solo of Adele's song Hometown Glory. And it was a great month for our students and all their talents.
A lot more music department programs have been going on recently as well. In April, the jazz band will perform at the Yawk Jazz Festival. That's on April 12th at 6:45 p.m. And 2 students, Elena Kaufman and Taylor Gebhardt, have been selected to represent the high school at the PMEA District 1 All-State Conference in Erie from April 17th to 20th. And on April 22nd, several of our marching band students will travel to Norwin High School to participate in a leadership conference by speaker and keynote speaker for the PMEA Music Educators Conference, Scott Lang.
our report.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any questions or comments on our high-achieving student representatives? Thank you. Good. CWCTC report.
Okay, lots going on over there. Got a report back from the students that were at the Culinary Arts State Competition, and we had received 4 gold medals, 8 silver medals, 6 bronze, and $6,250 worth in scholarships. One of our students, Jimmy Miller, received one of the silver medals for food and beverage management, and Alyssa Wirtz received first place certificate as for the poster contest and a voting delegate, so congratulations to them as well. On the 2013 Skills USA state competition, we had 3 of our students compete there, and 2 of them took 5th place, Michaela Horvat and Addie Laux in the community service under the health occupation, and Robert Vincent took 9th place, so congratulations to them. If you have an opportunity to check out the website, they've updated their website. This is their one of their newsletters, so I can have you look, but that's included on. They've done a real good job updating their website. Also, they have partnered with this Lehigh Career and Technical Institute, and they're going to start offering a CDL training program for the adult evening class. So everything's, they've advertised, and they'll be in partnership with them. So you'll start to see that also. So that's good news for that. And then wanted to also, I have here for you a sample of what this is the RFP, the request for proposal that went out to all the different companies, and the goal for that is for all of anybody that wants to be considered for the building project over there. All the bids have to be in by April the 3rd. They will, we're going to interview the top 3 candidates on May the 15th. And then we will pick one of those on that night as well. You will be receiving an invitation in the mail right after that to come to the dinner on May 30th. So if you could mark your calendars, it's Thursday, May 30th. It's a question and answer event. Our hope is to have all 81 board members attend, all 9 school districts there, to ask questions of the VOTEC for then you'll know by then who is going to be awarded that program. So you'll have time to answer questions and things on May 30th. And the invitations, I think it's going to be 6 o'clock, but the invitations are going to be mailed out on May the 3rd, so you'll be getting them in the mail after that. So lots going on over there.
Questions for Ms. Baughman? The intermediate unit report.
Our regular meeting was held with 12 members present. We handled routine matters. Negotiations are ongoing with the teachers at this time. The IU Foundation continues having fundraisers, and they're the ones that give grants out. The performance appraisal for Dr. Matto was distributed and completed. But we had some shocking information, which is absolutely amazing. There was a real concern about the salaries, the cost of some people up at the IU. And these people were under the Act 93 contract. And Dr. Matta took it upon herself to go and face them and ask them. 75% of the people took concessions and cuts and saved $325,612. There were cuts, days lost, The administration, the executive director took a freeze, the assistant executive director took a freeze. There were cut days, there were reductions, and some of the lowest paid people even volunteered to take freezes and make other concessions. And we were just absolutely impressed. And she said that, you know, people understand that if you want to keep your job, you've got to keep costs under control. And we were very proud of those people, and we thank them for taking those concessions to help with this serious budget issue. Allison Willis again reviewed that the consortium health care increase were capped at 5.5%, which allowed for us to take a $100-and-some-thousand cut in our budget. And she also stressed the fact that the IDEA money, which had been, you know, previously held and distributed, has been given back directly to the districts. So they're the ones that are going to use it now to do whatever it is, and they can control that. And that had been, I guess, an ongoing complaint for a long time, that this IDEA money was being distributed not by the districts themselves. So that has been resolved. And we will have our next meeting then, I guess, I think it's next week or in 2 weeks then.
Thank you. We'll move over to the PSBA liaison report and move to superintendent's report.
I have a couple of walk-on items that just arrived. The first one is a resignation. Sheila Peterson from our food service department has submitted a resignation. So we would entertain a motion that the board accept Sheila's resignation.
So be it.
There's a motion by Mrs. Kaufman and a second by Mr. Feistel. Roll call.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Dr. Feist?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mrs. Love? Yes. Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Feistel?
Yeah.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8, 0, and 1.
We have two additions to the day-to-day substitute list. One is a teacher who is an early childhood major. That would be Lamanda Davies from Star Junction, Pennsylvania. And then we also have a custodian sub, Joyce Mahalich from Scottdale, Pennsylvania.
Motion on the subs.
So be it.
I'll second it.
And Mr. Alt. Seconds it, and roll call.
Dr. Feist?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman? Yes. Mrs. Love? Yes. Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Alt?
Yes.
Mr. Feistel?
Yes.
Mr. Benz?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, and that passes 8, 0, and 1.
We talked a little bit about earlier about the budget and posting tentative budgets. We have to have a tentative budget posted for 30 days before we can pass a final budget. We try to get that final budget passed as close to the end of June as we can. That gives us an opportunity to make last-minute adjustments pending the passage of the state budget. Administration is recommending that a couple of things here go on in terms of meetings. We have a planning meeting scheduled for May the 2nd. We would like to designate that as a voting meeting. In the event that there is a candidate for business manager, we'll be doing preliminary interviews in April, and hope to be able to bring 1 or 2 finalists to the full board prior to May 2nd, if at all possible. And we would like to be able to vote on that candidate on May 2nd if we can. And then we would also recommend that we move the May 9th meeting to May 28th. And that would allow us time to complete final work on a budget so that we're ready to post a budget 30 days prior to the when we have to submit it. And then we would also recommend that the June 13th meeting be moved to June 27th, again, so that we can make any last-minute adjustments, hopefully getting a little bit more money from the state. Understanding that when a budget is posted, we can always decrease our expenditures, but we are not allowed to raise that budget once it's posted. So that's a recommendation. Again, designate May 2 as a voting meeting, move the May 9th meeting to the 28th of May, Move the June 13th meeting to June 27th.
Would there still be a meeting on June the 6th?
Yes,
That's regular plan.
right.
I was hoping, I thought, would it be possible for May 23rd? Is there enough time instead of the 28th? I'm trying in the process of possibly wanting to organize a baccalaureate service for the kids. It's not been done before. I mean, it's been done before, but outside of the school. And I've not got a final confirmation from the high school principal yet, but that's the date that I was looking at. Because the Sunday before, it's Memorial Day weekend, and I'm thinking that nobody will be around. But does May 23rd give us enough time?
Is that a Friday?
It's a Thursday, May 23rd.
May 28th.
May 28th is a Tuesday. They graduate the 31st.
We do this, somebody want to make a motion?
No,
Should we?
May 23rd.
When we get this on the table and then discuss it further on the actual date.
Okay.
Is that all right? You want to make a motion to that effect, and then you can we can look at it further on the exact date.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Kaufman and a second by Mr. Bentz. All right, now let's talk further about the date or anything else you want to. You're suggesting, looking here, May 28th is a Tuesday.
Right. I was looking at, graduation is May 31st. There's a scholar dinner on the 29th. The 30th is the Q&A for the VOTEC. So we're off Monday because of Memorial Day. So to get baccalaureate in, I was looking at that possibly being, if I could help get that organized with some other parents on the 28th, if that's open at the high school. So my question is, could we do the board meeting on the 23rd, Thursday? Does that give us enough time, 30-day wise?
Yeah, I have no problem with the 23rd. That actually gives us a little bit more time in terms of the 30 days. But that's just me speaking.
Somebody else on the, want to amend your motion to that effect? To make it on May 23rd?
Instead of May 28th.
Yeah, I'm in the motion.
So the only voting meeting we have then would be on the 30th of April until the end
May
of...
2nd, he said, would be a voting meeting. April 30th
Okay.
is a special voting,
Okay.
I guess, and then May 2nd.
The May 2nd would be primarily, that's designated for...
So you're canceling the 9th. You're canceling the 9th of May.
Moving it to possibly the 23rd if we all say okay.
For that meeting on 5/2 that you have for a business manager, do you have a salary schedule prepared for us to look at?
Not at this juncture. What we will have is assuming we have a candidate, we will have an executive session with a proposed contract that will have a salary listed. We make that offer back and forth with him.
What research is being done on that, Jack? What research is being done on a business manager's salary?
We told you that we would research the region as you asked us to, and that is underway.
When will we get that?
Whenever it's complete. Mr. Eicher's working on that, if you recall. And I don't know what his progress is to date.
And when do these interviews start? These interviews, when do they start?
They will be the third week of April.
Okay, I want the board to know I've requested to be informed, so...
You requested what?
To be informed of the interviews.
And you raised the question of attendance at the, in a note, and we were looking to our council here, and we'll get back to you on that.
I simply want to observe. I have no intentions of participating.
Okay. Are we ready to call the question on the changes? Do we understand what the changes are? The 20th, that's what you amended it. We're looking at the 23rd of May. Is that right? Thursday the 23rd?
May 2nd would be a voting meeting in the event that we need to vote that night. The May 9th meeting would be moved to the 23rd.
Is that a voting meeting also?
Yeah, that's a regular voting meeting.
voting.
That's a regular voting meeting, so that would be moved to the 23rd. And the June 13th meeting, which is also our June voting meeting, would occur on June 27th.
Just a note here on the on special meetings. If we would discover that the committee is ready to make a recommendation on the business manager, and it would be well, and they would advise it would be well to go before and it is not by May 2, but we may call a special meeting. That's what we'll check with you on, but it would be specifically for that purpose, but that we want to keep that option open.
Thinking positive, if we like the business manager candidate, can we vote on that on April 30th? If we feel confident in bringing a candidate that night.
That's a pretty tight timeline, but
It's possible.
it's possible.
Okay. Because Thursday's only 2 more days.
Right.
Okay. Good. Anything else on schedule? Then let me see. Where are we here? Roll call. Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mrs. Love. Yes. Mr. Polakowski.
Yes.
Mr. Earl.
Yes.
Mr. Beistel.
Yes.
Mr. Benz.
Yes.
Dr. Fike.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, and that passes 8-0-1.
The last item I have, love to share good news with the board, and I love to share good news with Mr. Patera and the public also. I believe you received a note in the mail that Dr. Scott had mailed out regarding the Pittsburgh Business Times and our ranking there. I will have a lot more information about this for you at a future meeting. The Pittsburgh Business Times, they make their rankings based on standardized test scores, and they answer the question, which school or which school district has the highest scoring students. And then in terms of the overachiever rankings, they answer the question, which districts do better than are expected based upon economics. So regionally, out of 105 districts in the southwestern Pennsylvania region, on an overall ranking, an honor roll ranking, which school or district has the highest scoring students. Last year, you may remember, we ranked number 33 out of 105. This year, I'm pleased to tell you we're 31 out of 105, so we moved up 2 steps there. And in terms of the overachiever rankings, which answers the question, which school districts do better than expectations based upon economics, last year we were the 3rd most overachieving school district out of 105 in the region. This year we're like Avis, we're number 2. So we moved up 1 rank. We certainly hope to crack that number 1 spot in the very near future. Now in terms of the district, when we're compared to the entire state, 500 school districts, our overall honor roll ranking, which schools are scoring the highest on standardized tests. Last year we were 134. This year we moved up 5 spots to 129. So we're very pleased with that. And in terms of overachiever rankings, last year out of 500 districts in the state, we were number 11. This year we're number 8. So good news. I'm very proud of the work that our students, our parents, our teachers, our administrators are doing in that regard. And we hope to keep moving upward. And I'll have a much more detailed report for you at a later date. But I did want to share that piece of good news with you.
Jack, I have a question about that report, and I studied it very closely. Who were we compared to, those 105 school districts?
Don't have the list in front of me, Dr. Fike.
I mean, do you know?
Pardon me?
Do you know? I mean,
yeah, we know.
Here,
I can give you the list.
like
6 counties.
The 6-county area: Westmoreland, Allegheny, Fayette, Beaver, Butler, and Washington.
Beaver, Butler, and Washington. Okay. The concern that I had is if you are the difference between rank and percent. If you rank number 1, you're wonderful. If you rank number 100 out of that group, you're not very good. But in percentage, it's the opposite. If you're 100%, you're really good. If you're 1%, you're really bad.
Correct.
So there's a crisscross on that.
Well, no, these are all rankings. These are
Well, I turned the rankings to percentiles. And if you look at the rankings you gave us, they're 60s, 60%, 70%, 60%. I think our 4th grade is the class to watch. They're real good. They were like 90 or something like that. So I think it averaged out like maybe 70%. So the rank, you look at your rank, and that's one thing, but when you convert it to a percentile, we're in the 60s and 70s.
I'm not quite understanding.
Well, you take the number of school districts. It says this many out of this many, and you can get a rank. You can convert that to a percentile. And I did it. And we're in the 60s and the 70s. And
well, if you look at the overachieving rankings, and you have 105 school districts, that approximates 100. And if we're number 2, that puts us at the 99th percentile.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, how you got to be number 2. That's what I was wondering, because if you look at the difference, I think it was only a 2% increase. What I thought I might do is maybe come down to your office someday and we could share this information, because I was totally confused.
Sure.
First of all, who's Pittsburgh Business Week? Who are these people?
Pittsburgh Business Times?
Whatever that is, yeah.
They're a business journal for the Pittsburgh area. They monitor all kinds of things in the education and business climate of the Pittsburgh area.
Yeah. For example, Jack, our percentile rating at the high school was 49%.
Okay.
Again, I
mean, a little common sense here.
So
this is the WPIAL, and if you do a ranking on how we score in competition, we rank number 31 out of 105. Any athlete would know how that works.
70%.
That's pure scoring.
That's 70%.
If you handicap people and say based on what the expectations are in golf, where you handicap someone, we came out 2nd. Now it's pretty clear what these scores indicate, and if you want to detract from it, and if you want to be a naysayer, and you want to put Southmoreland down, do your own kind of semantic kind of
it's not
piece on
semantics.
this.
It's not
if,
semantics.
If you believe,
it's not semantics.
If you believe that Southmoreland can also achieve and can overachieve, take the scores at their raw value. That's what you have here in front of you. Does somebody else want to say something?
You certainly don't want the truth.
One thing that they, in the overachieving, that they also look at your economically disadvantaged population. So out of that 105 local in the Western PA region, we're the 75th poorest district. But even though we're the 75th poorest district, we outperform more than 70% of all the districts in the Western region. So it really, it is very impressive. Yet 31 out of 105, it's certainly not 1 or 2, but what I can say is, of that 105, we are the highest performing. No district that is poorer than us outperforms us.
If you look at the numbers you have down for the high school, you give us a ranking, and then you tell us how many. Is it 53 out of...
you're talking about for the various grades?
Yeah, if you look at the...
So what the Business Times does is they look at 3 years of your data. They look at your reading, writing, math, and science scores. They do a composite for 3 years, and then they rank them. So out of 105, 11th grade, our 11th grade ranked 54th out of 105.
Right. Right.
We understand that. We've been talking about high school issues all year. 8th grade ranked 27 out of 105. 7th grade ranked 35 out of 105. 6th grade ranked 34 out of 105. 5th grade ranked 29 out of 105. 4th grade was 9.
Yeah, they're really good.
Out of 105. 3rd grade was 21 out of 105. And again, we are, in terms of poverty, we're 75 out of 105. So in the overachiever ranking, for example, the #1 overachiever in the region was a 79th overall performer. Very low performing school, but they're considered to be an overachiever because their poverty is so high that what performance they do have is considered to be pretty good.
I see.
Or I shouldn't use the word pretty good, but it takes your economics into consideration.
That answers my question, because the performances aren't that high, but they can still be considered good.
They're considered in terms of overachiever that they compare.
Because they are so poor.
Right. In the overall honor roll rankings, it's a straight ranking.
And we got both of those, right? You gave us both of those.
I did.
Tim, I thought your information was excellent, because it allowed me to look at rankings and percentages without any...
Now, the other thing you can do, I told you how each grade did in terms of district. You can also look at how, we just happen to be a grade per district school, but you can see how our school, our SES's 4th grade, matched up against everybody else's. Like some districts have multiple 4th grade schools. So you can look at it by district, you can also look at it by school. That make sense?
Didn't they put all their 4th graders together in a district that had multiple 4th grade schools?
The Business Times reports it 2 ways, just like PDE does. You can look at how your 4th grade district does as a whole, or you can look at how your 4th grade school does.
And what was this?
This was districts, 105 districts in the 6-county region.
In our case, the school and the district would be the same as the 4th grade.
Right.
It's the same thing, yeah. If you have time, I had a question about that letter from Tamales that you gave us last week.
Sure.
Okay. I didn't realize until I had time to look into it that what that letter was about, and correct me if I'm wrong, I need to know this. That letter was applied to less than 5% of our students, right?
Not 5% of our tested students.
No, it said special ed, it talked about the special ed students, right?
Right.
In grades 3, 4, and 5.
Right.
So I'm calculating they represent about 5% of our population.
Our total population.
Our total population.
Yes.
So it had nothing to do with the other ones. But this is the thing that I was concerned about. There was a statement in there that said these kids are, this is how it was worded, it said these kids who have severe learning problems are making growth at rates that are either equal to or better than regular ed students. Now there was no data about that. I don't know if it's 1 or 2 or if it's 100 or what. Do you have any idea what they meant by that? That these kids are doing better?
The cohort. The cohort. It would be all the special ed students at Southmoreland Elementary School.
That disaggregated subgroup.
Right.
Okay, but it says they're doing better than, or equal to or better than regular education students.
Their growth is equal to or better than, which is actually one of the goals that we set several years ago, that we wanted to narrow the gap between students who had IEPs and students who did not have IEPs. We're trying to narrow that achievement gap, because as a former school psychologist, you know that achievement gap often widens, and we're trying to reverse that trend and narrow that gap.
My concern, Jack, is for the regular ed kid who's not doing well. And there were no facts in there. There could be 1 kid or 100 kids, I don't know. They didn't provide any data. They just made a blanket statement. And it worries me if our regular kids aren't achieving at that level.
Well, I think based on the information we just gave you from the Pittsburgh Business Times, our regular kids must be doing pretty well.
Why did they put that in that letter then? Because that was disconcerting.
Because the letter came from the Bureau of Special Education, so they were commending us for making progress with special education.
Yeah, I got that part. The only thing that bothered me, and I think that's wonderful, but it bothered me that it said our regular education students are not achieving it. They're achieving the same as them, or not as good.
No, what it said was, you can have regular education students growing a year for a year, which is
right.
the norm.
PBOS, yeah.
So that means our IEP kids are growing a year for a year. If your regular ed kids, and I don't have the data on the top of my head here, are growing 1.5 years per year, then that letter says your IEP kids are growing at the same rate. So it doesn't say that our regular ed kids are not achieving. My Lord,
No. It says better than. It said better than.
It says equal to or better than.
Or equal to or better
Right.
than our regular ed students. And I just wondered about that because, now this only applies to 5% of our students, so it's not.
Applies to the IEP population.
Right, and that's
Southmoreland
not a lot of
Elementary
kids,
School, which
but
we were pretty clear about
I
last
just
week.
really hope that our regular ed kids are getting enough, that they, the statement surprised me. Maybe it was just a form letter,
I
Jack,
don't
or
think the
something.
letter in any way indicates that our regular ed kids aren't growing or achieving. It's just
No,
recognizing that
no.
our special education population
Is doing as well or better,
Right.
in their learning value-added growth.
and they're doing as well or better than regular ed, is
As
what
well
the
or
letter
better,
says.
yes.
Yeah.
And honestly, you might remember a couple of months ago we announced that based on the learning that all students at Southmoreland Elementary School are doing, that school was nominated to apply for blue ribbon status. So that is a pretty clear indicator to me that our regular ed kids are achieving, and I'm really proud of the fact that all of our kids are achieving, and part of that has to do with the guaranteed viable curriculum that we've been talking to you about for years.
Jack, I'm not questioning that. I just was surprised to see that in the letter. That surprised me. It
You've made the
surprised
point.
me.
Thank you, Ms. Fike. Other comments?
Congratulations, very good job. Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations. Maybe just another way of framing this in business times. This is really the business people get this. I've been shown it 10 years ago when we weren't this high and said, what are we doing in this district? But maybe a way to put it in dollars and cents. Remind us, where are we in Westmoreland County in taxes? From highest to lowest. Well, we're third, lowest. So in terms of what the dollar produces here in taxes, third lowest in taxes, we're in Western Pennsylvania, third highest in achievement. And I'm talking raw scores here, 31 out of 105. So we're talking raw scores, we're not talking any handicaps, raw scores. So believe me, for the tax dollar, for what the parents are putting into the kids and what the teachers are, we're getting a wonderful return. We're getting a very good return compared to other school districts.
Compared to other school districts, Levi?
Yes.
What is our aid ratio compared to the other school districts in Westmoreland County, Levi?
I just made the point in regards to what our taxes are.
What is our aid
third
ratio?
Third lowest in the county.
What is our aid
ratio? Go
ratio?
ahead and make you want to make a speech yet?
Third highest, third highest. So that it is what it should be.
Okay. Very good. Any other comments? Let's go to the attorney here.
I have one item to report.
Solicitor's report.
To publicly announce that we have a final decision in the Diane R. Gordon tax appeal, and the final decision from Judge Marsili was to find a fair market value of $5,370,000. Originally, the owner had been seeking $3,800,000. In December, the judge had come in with a decision of $5,180,000. We filed post-trial motions pointing out some errors and some things that were misunderstood, in our opinion, by the court, and the court at least substantially, although not completely, agreed, and so has come in with that decision to end the litigation. So going forward, I suppose to look at the total numbers, had the case gone completely the owner's way, then the loss for 2 years would have been over $72,000. Based upon the judge's final order, the loss for last year will be $8,600, and for this year going forward, assuming last year's millage, it would be approximately $12,000. 12,000 odd number, so that instead of 72,000, the combined total was 21,000. And I feel that based upon all that's going on in the case, that I recommended that we do not appeal. I think we'd be chasing after diminishing returns to try to do significantly better than that. And that's all I have to report.
What was the tax loss on that?
Last year was $8,660. This year will be in the neighborhood of $12,800 because the fair market value translation to assessment is a little bit different because the common level ratio went down.
Okay, so it'll just stay that way, though?
Well, it depends. It will stay that way.
It's going to stay that way.
Unless you change millage rates or they file another appeal.
It's going to stay
you ever
that
file
way.
another appeal. But right now, it looks like that's the way it's going to be for a while. That's all I have to report.
Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Oh, I'm sorry, citizens' comments.
Yes, citizens' comment.
None.
I see none. Shaking heads.
You did, okay. Mr. Beistel makes a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Love. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Ayes have it, and we are adjourned.